I'm Anthony Gallucci, and I wrote Cascade. I grew up in the Adirondack region of northern New York, in the St. Lawrence River Valley. I grew up in a little cabin in the middle of nowhere, and to escape into my fantasy world, I used to read a lot of books. And I used to dream of going to bigger places and to seeing these things I read in the books. And then I did. I got a chance to go, and I traveled, and I started writing things down, the stories that I heard. And then it took 32 years, but I finally got one of them published. Cascade is a book about a retired police detective who is hiding in his camp in upstate New York from his haunted past. And one day there's a knock on his cabin door, and he can no longer hide. When I started writing, I didn't know why, other than the fact that I've always wanted to make it into a book. But as I expanded on the characters, I realized that part of it is that I really did want to show the rest of the world what upstate New York is like, where I grew up. Also, as I was exploring Detective Severio's PTSD, I was also going through that. And so to be able to be in the mindset with him and go through it alone at camp and feeling alone at camp in Los Angeles in my head was such an interesting thing. So it actually sort of helped me grow with him to the end of the book. I think that is weird. Yeah, I've always said it. When I was a kid, I was like, I couldn't wait till I'm 17 and I go to college because I wanted to go away. I wanted to leave upstate New York and see what life was like and go to cities and go to all these places. And now that I fast forward 10 years, 12 years, I'm 32, and I just kind of want to go back and be a hermit. When I was a kid, my dad would take my brother and I into the woods, and he would point at things like, what tree is that? What track is that? And before we knew it, we knew pretty much everything that lived behind our house. Where they moved, where they lived, we could figure that all out. We knew it. And that sort of followed me as I went into a young man, and where I'm from, the hunting culture is very big. Next thing I know, I'm in the woods in surroundings I don't know, but it didn't matter because I knew how to track. It's just a great skill to have, and I find myself doing it even when I live in a city. It's always been a part of my life. Part of it was selfish. I wanted to go home. And the other part is that there is a mystery to upstate New York. And you can see it when you wake up in the morning. Like there's this fog and there's these smells that you don't get anywhere else, and there's the noises and things come alive. And I feel like after living in New York City, after living in Los Angeles, you don't get those things here. When you're awake, the traffic is still the traffic, it's still the same. People aren't waking up and then getting in their cars at the same time. Traffic is continuous. Nothing stops and starts. It always continues. But in upstate New York, things tend to change with the day, stop, and start again. It's like a clean slate every day. And that mystery sort of drives the story of Cascade. That's kind of a twofold thing. One is it was hard for me to sit still. It was hard for me to lock in and start writing. There's so many things I want to do during the day, or also I have a heavy work day pretty much every day. But disciplining myself to write was very difficult for me. The other part was I struggle with, why do you care? As a reader, as an actor, as a musician, all the things that I dabble in, when I'm done creating something, I want the person to go, I cared for a second. Whatever that means. I laughed, I cried, whatever. And so the hardest struggle for me as an artist in any particular setting is, why do you care? I think at the end of Cascade, you have a sense of one of the elements, whether that's maybe you want to go camping, maybe you miss home. There's some major feminist elements to Cascade. There are some major mental health awareness sections of Cascade. Something at the end of this book will trigger you to think about one of those things more. I think. I hope. That was my hope. When I was a kid, we didn't really have television. On a good day, when the weather was good, we could get Jeopardy at 5. So I read a lot of books. And it'd be very difficult to list all my favorites, but my all-time favorite book is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I love that book. Even when I took Latin in high school, and my thesis project was to translate part of Frankenstein into Latin, I loved it that much that translating into Latin is awful. But doing it with something you love was much easier for me. I love Thoreau. I love London. I still love the Hatchet series by Gary Paulson. Rudimentary reading, but still fun for me. The Thoreaus, the Londons, the Gary Paulson books, all of those bring me back to my favorite setting of all time, which is the wild. Frankenstein is sort of... I hate to admit that I'm a romantic, but Frankenstein has this romance to it, which you also find in most of the other authors' works I mentioned. There's a romance to them, which is a driving force as a reader for me. My favorite part of Cascade was explaining the camp. I took a lot of time to explain Detective Severio's camp, where he's hiding. The camp is my camp. So explaining the intricacies of the camp, and there's a part where he's got to clean out the sewage line. All those things happen at my camp, and it really took me back there. I guess that's a recurring theme, is taking me back to the places that I love so much in my sense memory. But yeah, my favorite part was explaining the camp, and because I could visualize it, I could see it. A lot of elements. The skills that Detective Severio has, a lot of them, although some are pushed to much higher limits in fiction, but I possess and have learned. I spent a lot of time bonding with my father over a lot of those things. And again, the biggest one is his mental suffering. I was going through that at the same time I was writing. So going from the beginning of the book, where he can't even sleep without drinking, and then at the end, when he's just sort of not as mentally crutched by the alcohol or the PTSD. So yeah, it was a similar journey. Have I ever had moonshine? Yes. I've had many types of moonshine. I've had clear moonshine, which you take a sip of it and knocks your socks off. It makes you feel like a dragon for about 30 seconds. I've had moonshine that was sort of conceptualized as moonshine, but it's just liqueur in a jar, which is what you can buy legally because it's only whatever the proof is, 70 proof or whatever. Yeah, moonshine, fantastic, A+. Detective Shaw, I really liked writing because he's like this tragic forbidden love character, and the forbidden love thing, I think, because I studied Shakespeare, is sort of like a thing for me. I don't know, follows me around. But that was fun for me to write, that forbidden love text. The other character that I love is the waitress. I had a lot of fun writing Amber. She is Detective Severio as a woman. I don't know if people will catch on to that, but she notices everything. Everything he does, what he eats, and if you've ever seen a really good waitress, they are like a military tracker in a way. They know everything. They remember if you come in more than once. They know your food. They know what you eat. They know what you pick. They know what you take in your coffee. They know what side you sit on. Like all these weird things that they just pick up on. And I love being able to write her as like my grandmother, my nana, my mom, all waitresses, and it's a skill they possess, and it's just the female version. And I had fun with that. Yes, writer's block happens. Um, I don't know why it happens because you feel like you have a strain of consciousness and then all of a sudden it's like gone. I guess it's like taking a test and forgetting everything you studied the night before. And how to get out of it, I don't know how to answer that. Um, I just take a break and come back within that time slot that I've allowed myself, or I'll force myself to stare at the page until it comes, or I'll open another document and write something completely different until the idea comes. But I mean, those are what I do, but I don't know how to battle it. When I was writing in college, it was very much okay, it's time to crack a beer and get this paper done. And then it turned into I don't have to write anymore, but I want to write. So it was like whimsical. Oh, I'll just write today. I got nothing else to do. But when I sat down and wanted to finish Cascade, I like really wanted to finish it. I told myself you have to do it as a job. Coronavirus had changed our lives, and I was at home working from home, answering emails and doing that for work. But I was sitting at the computer. I had to be at the computer anyway, so I spent that whole time writing until regular workday, till 5, until it was done. And so basically, if you say, how did I regiment stuff? Well, in this particular case, I spent a 9 to 5 day on it until it was finished. I didn't think there was going to be. I didn't even think there was going to be another book. But as people are reading this book and telling me what they feel and think, there almost needs to be another thing that Detective Severio can do. I didn't think there was going to ever be even this book, let alone that I was going to continue being a writer. So I have a list of things, and they're all on my website. But this fall, be looking for my next book, The Donnelly Brothers. It's sort of a dystopian crime drama in present-day New York, and it has some sort of nuances between the riots and the looting and everything that's been going on with the government right now in it, although non-political. So I'll be looking forward to that. I'm actually more proud of it than Cascade. I'm very excited for it as my second sort of feat. If you want to keep up with me and my projects, and I have a blog as well, just head on over to anthony-gallucci.com, where you can subscribe to newsletters and cool teasers coming from the Donnelly Brothers and videos like this, as well as my blog where I post. Also, if you want to stay connected, you can send me an email. You can contact me through the website as well. And I hope to see you there. I would really like to thank everybody who's been reading Cascade and who's been sending me feedback and sending me support and love, and thank everyone who has helped me along the way, people who've pushed me to keep writing, people who are my support system, my family who's helping me record this. Thank you to everybody. Thank you for staying involved with me and supporting, and I can't wait to see where we go from here.